Counselor of Finland here in Indonesia. Actually, the forum it was created to really stand as a testament between this work we do, this commitment towards sustainable and effective and innovative forestry between Finland and Indonesia. And I'm really happy this second taking place now. It is imperative that we do collaborate, share ideas, and leverage technology to foster a greener, a more prosperous future in the forestry sector. The forestry sector has a critical role in preserving biodiversity, combating climate change, and supporting local communities. It is very important to talk about this carbon issues in that sense too. As we're touching this carbon economy topic here, it is, we all know the topic is far from being ready anywhere around the globe. So it's really good to collaborate on this stage and see what Finland and Indonesia can do together. The event agenda opens up the status of Indonesian carbon economy and brings some ideas from Finland to Indonesia around the topic. It may not bring the ultimate solution or truth, but surely introduce some solutions that are essential in developing forest carbon economy. First of all, a topic about how to measure and model carbon in a reliable and traceable way. And the second is about the example, how the role of Finnish forests, what kind of role they are playing in carbon trading. I really like to once again express my sincere gratitude to APHI in organizing this forum with us and all the participants that are taking their time to join us for Finland and especially for Indonesia. It is shows us all how important this topic is also. We here in Business Finland and Embassy of Finland are happy to connect you with the online speakers and or any other Finnish expertise later on. Feel free to approach us anytime. So from now on, let's just engage hear the presentations, ask questions, and share your thoughts and have conversations in this webinar. I think you can write the questions on the chat, and also probably easier is if you want to open your mic and speak after the presentations. I think you can also raise questions in Bahasa Indonesia. There are several who understand that language in this, not me, in this webinar, and I'm sure your questions will be answered. Let us also conclude with the clear next steps, how to continue the conversation and find solutions that are benefiting both Finland and Indonesia. Thank you for this, and let us have a very productive and thought-provoking webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. So now I would also welcome Pak Indroyono as Chairman of APHI to deliver the welcome remarks. The floor is yours, Pak Indroyono.
Well, thank you, Bu Priscilia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ibu Priscilia, Ibu Nina Jacobi, Bapak Mr. Nico Osterberg, directly from Finland. So good afternoon, everyone. All the participants of this afternoon seminar. I just read the number of participants, 155 participants, quite a lot, I think. Allow me, first of all, to welcome all of you in this webinar with topics, lesson learned on the utilization of carbon economic values on mitigation action of forest management. We'd like to thank and convey high appreciation to Business Finland to kindly supporting and facilitating this event. As we understand, responding to the Paris Agreement mandate of 2015, Indonesia submitted the Enhanced Nationally Determined Contribution, or the NDC, to the UNFCCC Secretariat last September of 2022, reflecting an increase in emission reduction targets from 29% to 31.9% unconditionally and 41% to 43.2% conditionally with international collaboration. In addition, countries ratified Paris Agreement should plan a long-term strategy or LTS, and Indonesia already set a long-term strategy with a LTS document called Long-Term Strategy Low Carbon Climate Resilience or LTS LCRR 2050, which is submitted to UNCCC in July 2021. Through the low carbon scenario compatible with Paris Agreement target or LCCP is a part of the LTS LCCR, by 2030, forest and other land uses or FOLU sector is being targeted to achieve net sink with carbon absorption of 140 million tons CO2 equivalent and increase toward 304 million tons CO2 equivalent by 2050. This vision is known as the Indonesia Net Sink FOLU 2030. So my colleagues, friends, and ladies and gentlemen, the FOLU sector committed to achieve net sink 2030 by mitigation action and must be followed up with adequate funding. We have conducted the 12 mitigation action types, and we need some funding to do that. An estimated total amount of funding is around 14 billion US dollar, 14 US dollar, from now until 2030. The identification of funding sources for the implementation of forestry sector mitigation action for 2021 to 2030 period is estimated funding allocation 45% from the government and 55% by the private sectors. And this is contribute to around 7.3 billion US dollar. For optimization of central and regional funding, potential funding opportunities are green bonds, carbon economic value, and intergovernmental fiscal transfer. It shows the strategy of private investment engagement related to climate change in the forestry sector. In accordance with the utilization of carbon economic value in Indonesia, the government of Indonesia has stipulated a lot of regulation. However, there are still many challenges in the implementations. To address this issue, we should be clearly aware the importance of sharing knowledge and lessons learned from other countries and how the mitigation action result carbon credit as an incentive for private investments. So this afternoon, we are very happy to be able to learn from our colleague from the Nordic, from Finland. So the event today hopefully provide an important opportunity to draw attention to this strategic issue. To all of our distinguished speakers, guests, and participants, once again, I would like to thank you for being here, and thank you for the speakers because we want to learn more from you, and we should enjoy this webinar this afternoon, and I wish you fruitful discussion, and I hope this event will yield important steps toward the implementation of carbon economic value in Indonesia. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Priscilla.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Indroyono. So let us begin with the first presentation, which will be conducted by Pak Purwadi Supriyanto as the Secretary General from OPHI. So Pak Pur will present about the current status of Indonesian carbon and what's going on in the market at the moment. Pak Pur, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Bu Leah?
Yeah, we can hear you, Pak Pur.
Yeah, it's clear, yeah. Thank you. Distinguished guests and participants, Mr. Indroyono Susilo, Chairman of APHI, Ms. Nina Yakobi, Senior Advisor of Business Finland, Ms. Priscilia, also dear speaker, Mr. Nico and Mr. Mati from Finland. Good afternoon and very good morning to all of you in Finland, and good afternoon in Indonesia. Allow me in this great opportunity to update the status of carbon trading in Indonesia as part of the result of the mitigation action in the context of implementation Indonesia Volume Netting 2030. Yeah, maybe it is important to start with the presentation to show you the Indonesia commitment responding the Paris Agreement. As Pak Indroyono says, in 2030, we have to reduce 29%, now increase until 31%, unconditionally situation, and 41% to 43% increase with a conditionally. So you can see in this table that in unconditionally target, we have to reduce from 700 million tons CO2 equivalent to 214 million equivalent. So becoming 214 million equivalent CO2 equivalent. So we have an impressive target. We have to reduce 500 around million CO2 equivalent. So with the target, besides NDC, Indonesia also prepare the long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience, call it LTS LCCR 2030, with a vision to achieve net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. Yeah, it is important and very essential to provide this presentation because especially in this slide, as we understand that countries ratified Paris Agreement should plan a long-term strategies. We call it LTS. Yeah, it is not commitment; it is the vision. So based on according this stipulation or according this arrangement with the Paris Agreement, Indonesia sets low carbon climate resilience LTS LCCR 2050. It has been submitted to UNFCCC in July 2021. So as Mr. Indroyono said, that by 2030, forest and other land uses or acknowledged as follow sector is being targeted to achieve net sink with a carbon absorption. It's around 150 million ton CO2 equivalent and increase toward 304 million tons CO2 equivalent by 2030. Now, I think we are very familiar with on this vision. It is called and acknowledged as Indonesia follow net sink 2030. You can see in this infographics that in 2030 with the LTS under LTS LCPP, we have already been decreased 140 million CO2 equivalent in 2030. It means that it has been the absorption is more than the carbon release. So let me show you, dear participant, that this is the current status of forest in Indonesia. We have 120 million hectares of state forest, A part of this is around 60,000 million is production forest, and a part of this it has been stipulated for forest license, or we call it forest business license, consisting of plantation forests is around 11 million hectares. Natural forest is approximately 18 million hectares, and dedicated or allocated for ecosystem restoration, non-timber forest product, carbon sequestration, ecotourism, silvopasture. It is actually addressed for ecosystem restoration and environmental services is around 0.97 million hectare. So totally 30.18 million hectare are comprising of 600 units for concession license in Indonesia. So it is important to understand that based on the volume netting target, the concessionaire will play an important role, in the ground field, because there are a lot of mitigation action that should be done and that should be conducted by all of the land holders. Yeah, you can imagine if it's open area and nobody there, it will be very difficult to determine and to address who will be responsible to conduct or to carry out the mitigation in the field. So in this opportunity, we would like to show how the importance of the plantation, natural forest and ecosystem restoration in Indonesia to be a part of playing important role in the mitigation as to reduce emission in Indonesia. So this is the scenario how 600 units of multi-forestry business, after Act number 11/2020, which is enabling all the concessionaire to manage forest not only one commodity but multi-commodity. We call it multi-forestry businesses, which are consisting timber products, utilization of non-timber products, area utilization, environmental services, collection of timber product, and collection of non-timber product as well. So we have to integrate all of the forest utilization with what kind of the mitigation that should be conducted in every part of the concessionaire. Yeah, we can identify at least 11 mitigation action that will be conducted in the concessionaire as part of the contribution of volume netting carbon reduction declining. Yeah, first is about the reducing deforestation rate on dry land, deforestation rate on peatland, and then degradation, dry land and peatland, accelerating plantation forest establishment, sustainable forest management, and rehabilitation with rotation and without rotation, with rotation, water management improvement, and conservation on biodiversity. Yeah, why I put this table, because it's very important thing how when we are talking about the carbon credit or carbon trade in Indonesia, all of the credit that will be raised or that will produce on the concessionaire should be confirmed, should be comply with all of the mitigation, which is in line with the government target as shown in this table. What kind of the mitigation? There are 12 mitigation action here. So in terms of carbon trading, we have to prepare and to conduct the mitigation for the 12 kind of this thing. So on the next slide, this is the target. I'd like to summarize all of the mitigation action that should be done by concessionaire. At least 5 mitigation action was reducing deforestation and forest degradation, plantation forest establishment, sustainable forest management, enhancing carbon stock, and peatland management. So you can see the indication of investment target to achieve Indonesia's follow target based on each mitigation action and what kind of activities that should be addressed in every mitigation action. For example, for reducing deforestation and forest degradation, so there will be a quota for forest degradation, 1.9 million hectare that should be allocated, or maximum that should be allocated for concessionaire. Yeah, and then the second thing, plantation forest establishment. It is addressing to fulfill or to increase the forest cover, especially with the plantation forest establishment within and outside forest concession. Target plantation forest establishment until 2030. It is identified 6.11 million hectare. Then the third thing is sustainable forest management. To kind of the activities, the important thing is reduce impact logging and enhance natural regeneration. The target will be 1.17 million hectare. Enhancing carbon stock. We will have rehabilitation with rotation and rehabilitation with non-rotation. The two of the important mitigation action, especially is dedicated or addressing for the area, which is actually has environment index high. Yeah, so with rehabilitation, with rotation and rehabilitation non-rotation, it means that we have to rehabilitate area and try to make it as a non-timber forest product, or to extend the rotation, yeah, to strengthen rehabilitation purposes in this kind of the area. So you can see the target for the rotation is 0.05 million hectare, when the target of non-rotation is 1.88 million hectare. The last thing is peatland management. There are two activities: water management and peatland restoration, with target 0.95 million hectares for water management, and peatland 1.89 million hectare. And you can see that how the percentage in this each concession, 43% in water management and 31% within a concession area. As Pak Indroyono said, it is important to finance the mitigation action. It has been stated in the operational plan of Indonesia's follow net sink 2030. It has been identified the financial resources for mitigation action 2021 until 2030. The government part is 6.3 billion, and private sector is 7.7 billion. It's around 45%, which is totally 14 billion. And financial resources, it will be revenued from the green bonds, carbon economic value, intergovernmental fiscal transfer, and private investment. So we can now jump to what kind of mechanism that we have to follow to register and to propose carbon trading if we are going to pursue the emission trading or carbon trading. As you know, based on the regulation, there are two kinds of trading. First is the offset of emission. The second one is emission trading. The difference of the two process or two mechanisms for emission trading, the government has set the cap for emission level. So all the concessionaire, all the proponent should, comply or should fulfill the cap of the emission. And it's different with the offset of emission because no need for you to follow the cap, but you have to prepare and to calculate the baseline and then the target emission reduction. So it will be depend on each of the concessionaire based on the target. When you have already achieved the target and passed the target, so the difference between the target, the actual, that is the number that you can propose or you can distribute for allocate for carbon trading. So this is the two mechanism that is very important to be understood. And the next process that should be considered as all of the process, both emission trading and offset emission, should be comply with roadmap of carbon trading. Why we state this? Because in the Ministry of Regulation, Ministry of Forestry Regulation, it is stipulated, you have to be permitted to make trading, especially for foreign trade, when you have already fulfilled the subsector for foreign trade and for NDC target. I'd like to highlight again that why we have to follow the roadmap of carbon trading, because based on the Ministry of Regulation, it is stated that NDC target should be achieved first, by subsector for foreign trade. So it means that the government will prepare the roadmap, and we have to follow this, the target every year until 2030. So there are two kinds of trade that we can follow. First, the IDX or Indonesia carbon trading, and direct trading, Indonesia carbon exchange, and also direct trading. Both of the process should be fulfilled with the roadmap of carbon trading. You have to follow the target. You have to follow the baseline. So when you have already passed the target based on the subsector for foreign trade, it means that the minister will give you the permission to transfer the carbon to the foreign trade. This is the basic principle of the mechanism of carbon trading in Indonesia. So what does it mean with the subsector and subsector for the carbon trading purposes on forestry sector? You can see in this slide, there are two approaches. First, for carbon trading in forestry, there are two categories, subsector forestry and subsector peatland and mangrove. Where is the position of the concessionaire? You can choose if you are in the dry land. Most of all the option is only for subsector forestry with the subsector of concession license of forest management unit. When you have a peatland and mangrove in your concession area, so there are two options. You can follow the emission trading, and you can also follow the carbon offset mechanism as I presented before. So in this slide, mostly all of the subsector of forestry, which is consisting of 6 of categories: state forest non-license, concession license under forest management unit, private forest, approval area for social forestry, customary forest, and state forest for non-forest area. It will be categorized as a subsector from a subsector forestry. So it is very essential to understand this position, because it will determine where is your position in top of electing or selecting and the mechanism if you are going to propose carbon trading. I'd like to summarize the current status and also the process how to achieve or to propose carbon trading by forest management unit. The first one, most of the proponent or all the proponent should be legally approved by Ministry of Environment and Forestry. What does it mean? That only forest management unit that can propose, or let's say the social forestry license that can propose the carbon trading proposal. Yeah, and the second one is you have been granted the SFM certified, or we call it Indonesia Timber Legality Assurance System, or Sistem Verifikasi Legalitas Kayu. Then when you have already been or granted the license from the ministry, the second step, you have to propose or to prepare the management plan. It's a long-term management plan, 10 years, consisting what kind of business that you are going to conduct in your concession area. And it is required at minimum 2, which one is you can choose a timber, non-timber, and also environmental services, yeah, ecosystem services. So in terms of environment certificate carbon, for example, so with the management plan, in management plan, you have to propose, let's say, first choice, you have to propose a timber utilization, and the second one you can propose carbon absorption as the option for environment or ecosystem services. So the next process is the mitigation action plan. Yeah, after you prepare the management plan of multi-forestry businesses, you have to conduct or prepare mitigation action plan. It is consisting of 2 documents. First one is mitigation action plan based on forest operational plan. When you have already identified what kind of the mitigation action as arranged by a follow operational plan. So let's say from the 12 follow mitigation action plan, you are compatible, your concession is compatible with the sustainable forest management or reducing emission from deforestation degradation. So you can choose this methodology. So based on this, you can choose what mechanism that you will propose. First, emission trading, offset of emission, yeah, as we show you. And this is the important one, yeah. After you have already prepared the mitigation action plan based on the forest operational plan, you have to submit action mitigation plan document, or we call it document rencana aksi mitigasi. So this is the importance of the current status of the carbon trading in Indonesia, because there are 2 steps or 2 process which is now is going process that should be passed by all of the concessionaire. First is the roadmap of carbon trading. Yeah, it has been ratified. It has been stipulated by Ministry of Forestry last month in October, I guess. But there will be a bottleneck because there will be one process that has been identified and stipulated in this regulation, which is on process for emission reduction target for forest management unit as part of sub-sector. Yeah, I'd like to highlight this again. Because of the target for forest management unit as part of sub-sector has not been identified yet, has not been determined yet. So we have to wait until the government set the target for sub-sector of forestry. This is the important one. The next one is a process for determining a methodology approval based on methodology framework. As you understand, as you follow, participants, last month also the Minister of Forestry and Environment and Forestry issued a methodology framework. It means that all of the 12 methodology under follow operational plan should be referred to the methodology framework. Yeah, it is just guidance. So everyone, every parties can propose the methodology by each of the proponent based on the suitable, based on the situation which is facing out by each of the concessionaire. So with the current status, Bulia, yeah, now all of the concessionaire is still waiting the roadmap of carbon trading, which is will be determining of target emission reduction for FMU as part of subsector. And the second one is the methodology approval based on the methodology framework. When you have already prepared this and you have submitted the action mitigation plan document, so you can register to the national registration system in the Director General of Climate Change, and your action mitigation plan document or DRAM will be validated, and then will be verified mitigation action that you have already conducted in the current year. And then the last one, and you have to register to the national registration system and the potential of emission reduction that you have to pursue after you have, conduct a lot of mitigation action as proposed in the DRAM or action mitigation plan document. Then finally, when every thing is in place, the government will issue Indonesian certificate emission reduction of greenhouse gases, and finally, you can propose the trading both domestic and international. So this is the simple flowchart business process for carbon trading by Forest Management Unit. And as Bulia stated, yeah, we are still waiting to. We cannot run it today, yeah, because all of the process should be comply with this chart, yeah. And yeah, I'd like to remind all of you, dear participants, why we have to put all of the process, because in Indonesia regulation, until today, until now, it's not recognized voluntary carbon market, yeah. We call it a regulatory carbon market. So, of course, if you have already proposed or submitted for voluntary carbon market, you have to prepare or to adjust your methodology, your project design document to be synergized with the national registration system, or should be in line with the national registration system or methodology under Director General Climate Change in the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. So this chart will be only focusing on how regulatory carbon market works, and not talking or not discussing about how the voluntary carbon market works here. So maybe Mr. Nico or Mr. Mati will share us how the comparison with the other market, especially for voluntary carbon market. Yeah, the final or the summary of all of the presentation is the first one. Actually, we really need international cooperation to support mitigation action, and strong incentive to accelerate multi-forestry business, tech holiday, tech and non-government tech interested, and the most important one, economic carbon value. Yeah, because it will attract all of the process of the mitigation action which is conducted by a concessionaire. The third one is to accelerate applied methodology for forest mitigation action. Yeah, one of the bottleneck that we are facing today is the applied methodology, because methodology which are now registered in national registration actually is not compatible with the methodology in terms of the concessionaire. So it's very important, yeah. And maybe the other option is how the government make endorsement, yeah, or acknowledgement for the VCS, or voluntary carbon standard, and if it can be acknowledged, it can be endorsed, that it will be easier for concessionaire to propose the action mitigation document without applying a new methodology in a national registration system. The next is incentive to ease financial scheme of foreign direct investment. Of course, Indonesian Forest Concession now trying always to identify the possibility and the potential financial scheme to support multi-forestry business to achieve Indonesia's follow net saying 2040. Last but not least is how we accelerate support for Indonesia carbon hedging from follow sector to encourage mitigation action, investment, and public-private partnership. I'd like to highlight the last one is how important for us now to accelerate Indonesia carbon exchange from follow sector, because I do believe that as you understand what IDX or carbon exchange now is only focusing on the industry, yeah, only the energy, because there is still less support and less supply from carbon certified carbon reduction from follow sector. So it's very related with the proposal for the third one is how to accelerate applied methodology. Yeah, because without the methodology, acceleration of Indonesian carbon exchange from follow sector will be not possible. Thank you, Bu Lia. We can discuss later the issue of critical that happen in Indonesia carbon trading. Thank you, Bu.
Thank you, Papur, for very comprehensive information regarding what's happening at the moment in Indonesia. So now I'd like to introduce the first speaker, Mr. Matti Toivonen. So Mr. Toivonen is the CEO and co-founder of Green Carbon Finland. He is also a president of Finnish Carbon Sink Association and has been in the software entrepreneurship for more than 25 years. Today, Matti will deliver a presentation with the title of From Trees to Carbon Credits, Exploring the Role of Forest Owners in Finland's Carbon Market. So, Matti, I will give you the floor for 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you for the invitation, and nice to see you all here. Can you see my screen already?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Yeah, very good. Today I'm going to talk about a little bit of Finnish carbon market, but I'm going to concentrate on my presentation, basically how we as a company have been kind of pioneering the Finnish carbon market with Finnish forest owners, and where we are currently in a Finnish market, and a little bit background of our methodology and the processes. But first, let me see. Yeah. First, a few words about our company, what we do. We work in 3 different business areas. First is consultation services for Finnish and European companies on carbon footprint management, and also recently we started a biodiversity footprint management, and these These are kind of a consultation services which we offer to the companies. These are kind of the first steps to start with the company's climate actions and the climate road. Then, secondly, we offer software solutions for this area, like calculation platforms for companies' carbon offsetting, carbon calculations, but also some data and kind of a benchmark data licensing for these calculation purposes. And third, and the topic which we are talking about today is a carbon sequestration projects. Together with the forest owners, we create carbon units, carbon projects, and offer these carbon credits to companies to offset their emissions caused by business operations or production or whichever area it is used. And we are roughly 4 years old company, basically worked around 3 years after our solution development, and our team currently consists of 20 experts, mainly on the consulting business area. There's total of 9 persons on that area, and also a few persons in sales operations, marketing, and 2 persons, actually 3 persons in this carbon sequestration area. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company. Our customers are mainly Finnish, like mid-size and larger companies, but also we have some European companies. Total of roughly 190 actually currently within 3 years' time. But yes, today I'm going to talk about Finland's carbon market and how trees and forest owners are kind of related and connected to this business area. First, a few words of a background of good kind of methodologies and requirements of these carbon sequestration projects, and what are the criteria for good compensation or offsetting projects. These are kind of a global scientific world studied and presented that how should these projects to be approached so that they can be assured to be high quality as possible. And basically there are 8 requirements which should be fulfilled, and some of these requirements are kind of subjective requirements, but some of them are quite let's say strict, that should be addressed. I like to highlight one of the more important criteria, which is transparency, so that the project operator or whoever creates these emission sequestration projects should be able to present that what kind of actions has been done and in what size of measures. And this is very important for the end customer, end user of these carbon credits, so that they can be sure that that the actions which the project operator is saying that they have been doing is also being done. And this is usually concluded by a third party auditing, so that there are actually 3 or 4 actors in this whole process. There's a project operator, landowner, end customer, and the project auditor, so that these 4 actors together create kind of the carbon market. Well, a little bit about our first methodology, which we have been applied in Finland. It's based on forest fertilization with a mineral fertilization, and how it is affecting on the trees. On the right hand side, you can see cut tree log where the fertilization process has been done somewhere between 20 to 30 years. You can see wider yearly growth from, if you can see my mouse pointer, So from the fertilization has been concluded here, and after that the trees grow even double or triple size per year than without this fertilization. And based on this additional growth and the biomass created through this fertilization is these carbon credits then created. And we have a scientific partner, Finnish, how do we call it, Finnish for Natural Resources office in Finland, and they have been creating, based on scientific research, a calculator software where we can calculate the additional growth of these trees based on the stem size and the let's say the ground data of the forest compartments. And we have applied these projects through international ISO standard, ISO 14064, which is defining how these mitigation projects should be applied. And we use a third-party independent external auditor, currently DNV Global, who is then auditing our whole process and on a yearly basis the material created through these actions. Then in general, what is a carbon sequestration project and probably what is not? I think there are a few principal things that has to be considered. That first of all, there has to be some kind of action or some kind of a process where more carbon is sequestrated than without this project, and it has to be somehow able to be measured, and then there has to be kind of a financial incentive so that this action wouldn't happen without this financial compensation, for example, for the forest owner, so that for the normal growth of forests and trees cannot be turned or sold as a carbon credits, but there has to be done some kind of action to create more mitigation, and only that additional mitigation is then transferred to carbon units. There has to be a contract with the forest owner that the forest owners is then doing the actions which is defined, and of course there has to be some kind of a end user, a customer who is willing to buy these credits. And yeah, I'll come later on a bit about the customer side of these projects. On our case, a simple example, what is suitable area for a carbon sink project. The forest owner has to be, first of all, genuine desire to participate these carbon sink or carbon sequestration projects, so that they wouldn't do the actions without our compensation, at least not on that scale, which is then concluded. And there cannot be any other contract for the same land area where we are or anyone else is doing the carbon sequestration project, so that there cannot be like a double contract on the same area. Only one contract per area. And yeah, the forest component and forest area must be suitable and let's say suitable for the methodology applied. For example, on our case in a fertilization, it has to be first in the forest compartments, roughly 20 to 40 years old in a Finnish rotation, and the minimum area on our case is 10 hectares, and that comes basically from the fertilization operators, because the fertilization is mainly done done with helicopters, and there has to be some kind of a minimum area for that. And yeah, the contract period with forest owners is 5 years time on a mineral lands and 10 years time on a peat lands, and that's based on the fertilization's effect on the land. How long does it affect on the forest growth? And there cannot be any other kind of financial incentive or any other financial contract, for example, the governmental support or any other financial contract with these areas. And then on the landowner side, they have to commit to some actions or some prohibitions. First of all, because we assure to the end customer, the company who buys these credits, that this carbon sequestration will happen now and will happen through the contract period. The landowner must commit to inform us in case there are some actions which reduce the number of trees or effect for the growth. For example, natural disasters like storms or insect damage, or in Finland case, we have some snow damages in some winters. If there's any kind of urban or communal development like new power lines, roads built through these areas, that has to be informed to us. Or if there's any kind of action for harvesting, unless only the damaged trees, then that has to be informed to us. And then on case by case, we observe that does it have an effect for the remaining contracts, so that some action should be done. And then of course, yeah, the basic idea is that the forest should be left as it is through the contract period, as long as it is valid. And if there's any unannounced logging, that has to be sanctioned, so that the forest owner has a high enough incentive to keep the contract area as it is. And of course, all the taxes and all the other kind of financial aspects has to be considered through with the landowner. Then a short introduction of how our process, how does it work in general. First of all, the questions usually come from forest owners that how can I be in a part of the carbon markets. So the first step is to make a contract with a landowner. That has to be concluded before any other actions the landowner does, for example, with the fertilization operators or any other aspects. So the project must be started with the carbon contract with us. Then forest owner agrees for the fertilization to external operator, and it is usually concluded with a helicopter or a land tractor, and spread the fertilization to the forest. And based on this fertilization, then we get the additional growth, which is in Finland case something between 15 to 20 cubic meters per contract period. And since the forest and the nature is not like a very accurate environment, we have to notice different kind of buffers during these processes. There can be some actions which affect the overall carbon mitigation or sequestration capability of the forest. So overall, we use these buffers in, let's say, 5 or 6 different phases of the overall process, and that means that approximately 50% of actual carbon sequestration is then lost to these buffers, and the other 50% is then turned to actual carbon units, which can be then sold to companies. And when all that process has been concluded, the payments for the forest owner starts, and we pay on yearly basis through the whole contract period of 5 or 10 years time. Yeah, this is something kind of a reminder, but I want to highlight the second bullet point here that through this financial compensation which we pay through the forest owners, we can add a younger forest which are not like economically reasonable for fertilization other ways, so that when we pay for the commission to the forest owner, they can add the younger forest compartments and create the additional carbon sequestration through that. And then another important thing is that we calculate the additional growth through up-to-date data, which is usually concluded on a field study before the actual project starts with the landowner. And we use third-party experts to do the field inventory before the project. Two words about the contract process. First of all, we introduced the contract to the landowner, and like I said, the forest inventory must be done to be able to calculate the additional growth and the compensation for the forest owner. And if the forest owners is ready to proceed, then we sign a contractor either directly through us and with us and the forest owner, or in Finland we have also partner network, national partner network, where the partner can sign the contract with the power of attorney with the landowner and then deliver the project and the contract through us. And yeah, usually in these cases we make a kind of a triangle contract model where we and the landowner also have the contract with the partner, so that they assure that all these actions has been done as agreed. And then when these credits has been created through this process, important thing is that we find a customer for the project, for the credits. And in European Union, there has been a development of how companies can claim their climate actions and what kind of offset credits can be used in different kind of climate claims. And basically there are three ways to use or apply these credits. First, on the top right hand side is it's credits which we use or create with these kind of project which I just described, and these are then sold on a voluntary carbon markets to European companies, and they use it as a let's say offsetting or reaching the net zero or that kind of a claim. Another way is to support the national carbon neutrality target, which is currently probably the business case which is used mainly in European markets. And the reason behind is that in this case we don't have the problem with so-called double claiming or double accounting when companies kind of say that they support the national carbon neutrality target and use these credits in that way. Third model is that the forest owner can leave these carbon credits as their ownership, so that we only produce the contract and the calculations for the units, but the forest owner still remains the owner of these carbon units and then can decide what to do, can sell them directly to the end customer or decide what to do later on. Then the few words about the compensation for the landowner. In our case, the compensation is based on the amount of carbon sequestration through each forest compartment of the contract, and it depends on the land and trees diameters and volume and soil type and so on, and it's somewhere between 15 to maybe 27 euros per forest hectare per year. So basically on a 5 years contract period, the average amount of compensation for the forest owners is in our case 100 euros. And of course, the forest owner has to pay the fertilization by themselves. Currently, the price for fertilization in Finland is between 400 and 500 euros per hectare. So basically, forest owner gets 1/5 of the cost back through our compensation. And yeah, we use external professional partners for the inventories, only also in the beginning of the contract, but also through the contract period, and also a third-party auditing is required for the process, so that we can ensure that the actions has been done in a measures which we have agreed. A few words about the standard which we use, ISO 14064, which defines how these projects has to be concluded. We were the first Nordic company to apply this methodology and achieve the third-party recognition for the standard. And this is also important for the end customers, so that they can be assured that the model is as high quality as possible. Few words about the Finnish carbon market. There are currently 9 companies in Finnish market actively offering carbon mitigation projects, and the methodologies which are on the market currently is fertilization, extended rotation period, and reforestation. And our estimate is that the total sales on a yearly, like during the last 12 months, is something like 450,000 euros, which means 12,500 tons of CO2. So this is a really small amount compared to volume of the Finnish forest, and so we can say that we are in the first baby steps of these carbon mitigation projects. Our market share is currently something like 90% of the whole Finnish market. Yeah, in the end, few photos of one important part which I want to highlight in the end is the field audit. And here's an example from last year, from one of our contracts. This is there's the forest owner on the left-hand side, our expert Seppo concluding the measurements, and the third-party auditor from DNV Global is on the right-hand side. And the auditing is done through field auditing, and we, on our case, we do something like 1 out of 7 contracts through the field auditing. So basically, we don't, or the requirement is not to do the all contract days for the field auditing, but take some kind of a random selection of the contract base and then do the field auditing. And one important step for field auditing is to have a coffee on the grounds on the forest side. Thank you very much for the possibility to introduce our work in Finland. And if you have any questions, please contact me directly through email or LinkedIn, or I can answer the questions through chat during the rest of the step. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Matti, for sharing your experience in Finnish carbon market. And please stay. I'm sure that the Indonesian will have questions to you. So now I'd like to welcome the second speaker, Mr. Nico Osterberg from AFRI. So Mr. Osterberg is currently held as a Forest Carbon Service Manager, and he is managing, developing, and producing DAS service related to forest, carbon, and biodiversity, and also does a consultancy project. Previously, he was a doctoral researcher visiting doctoral candidate and research assistant at University of Helsinki and Aalto University. Now I would like to give the floor to Nico to deliver the presentation. Nico, the floor is yours, 20 minutes.
All right, thank you, Priscilla. I hope you all see my screen. One more setting and here we go. All right, hello everybody and thank you for the invitation to talk in this webinar. And my presentation today will discuss forest carbon modeling in quantifying the carbon impact of forestry. And I will go through this with a few example cases that we have conducted in Finland. I will first very briefly discuss forest carbon in general and how to quantify it by means of modeling, and then present two case examples from Finland and Europe. Forests, as we know, are one of the only existing carbon capture and storage tools deployable on a large enough scale to mitigate climate change in the near future. But due to the overall heterogenic and dynamic nature of forests, accurately and timely estimation of forest growth and associated carbon removals from the atmosphere are far from a simple task. However, by leveraging our forest management planning solutions, we can answer questions like how much carbon I have stored in forest biomass, soil, harvested wood products, and how this develops over time, how different forest management decisions impact the carbon fluxes of these carbon pools, and how should I manage my forest to create additional carbon sequestration. First, let's dive into the modeling solution and then see how to utilize it in practice. So our solution at AFRY Smart Forestry for providing answers to forestry questions is the Smart Forestry suite comprising of Manager, Tree Map, and Planner. Manager, the topmost one, is the basis for the suite as the inventory data management system to store data and plan day-to-day forestry operations. While Tree Maps, in the middle here, is a hybrid inventory solution that can combine drone, aircraft, and satellite mapping down to individual tree level. While Planner, as a third part, is a planning tool, including strategic and tactical level forest management planning, allowing forest asset management over longer time frames. All these tools include our carbon models fully integrated to data management and planning. And next, we'll dive deeper into how Planner is applied in forest carbon modeling and actual carbon project work. So the core of Planner is a simulation and optimization tool that simulates a huge number of viable forest management chains from planting to management operations and harvesting. And this is to illustrate all the viable management chains that are simulated with a significantly smaller amount, of course, here displayed than what is actually done in the simulation. The optimization algorithm is then applied to solve the optimization problem, which may be purely revenue maximization or include other objectives such as carbon storage or biodiversity with suitable indicators. The development of forest in these management chains affects the amount of biomass in the forest, which then translates to forest carbon storage, while harvests form an input to the wood product model. All these can be based on generic or case-specific assumptions. The applied carbon model is fully dynamic and it includes standing stock carbon storage in the whole tree biomass. Carbon is sequestered to forest biomass, while litter fall and management activities cause an input to forest soil, which is included with its own model, which is also fully dynamic, including carbon released from soil via soil respiration. Harvested timber then forms an input to the wood product model, including emissions from transportation and manufacturing. And the wood product model has different half-life categories based on different end uses of timber assortments, which on the other hand are based on national statistics of actual wood use. A share of harvested wood or its side streams is typically used for bioenergy, releasing emissions directly. While wood products and bioenergy may substitute other fossil-based products or energy sources, and the displacement effect of this is also estimated based on substitution factors and presented as an estimate of avoided emissions. Next, let's move on to see how this modeling framework can be applied in practice. I will conclude this forest modeling section with a brief introduction to our 3 forest carbon services. Firstly, in annual carbon accounting, we quantify the carbon impact of the ongoing or past year based on modeled forest growth and realized and reported forest management activities or harvests. This service is typically used for sustainability reporting of financial institutions and large-scale forest owners. Secondly, in carbon scenarios, we take a peek into the future by modeling long-term impact of strategic forest management choices on carbon sequestration. This has been applied, for example, in complying with reporting standards such as the EU taxonomy, which I will soon present in more detail as our example case of complying with a regulatory framework. Lastly, the third service area is carbon quantification, in which we quantify the carbon stocks and sinks of the land use sector of an entire geographical area during a specific year of interest. I'll now jump into a case example of applying our forest carbon scenario modeling in reporting with a reporting alignment with the EU taxonomy framework. First, very briefly, some context for the regulation. The EU taxonomy is a classification system for sustainable activities, and it's applied in a multitude of EU regulatory frameworks, all aiming at a green transition. It applies to all actors complying with these regulatory frameworks, and alongside it, there is a growing number of voluntary frameworks and supporting guidance, which we will not have time to dive in more detail today, but just to mention that these exist. So objectives and criteria for sustainable activities under the EU taxonomy framework. There are 6 objectives: climate change mitigation and adaptation, sustainable water use and transition to a circular economy, pollution prevention and control, and protection and restoration of biodiversity and ecosystem. To classify activities as sustainable, the criteria is that you have to positively do a positive contribution to one or more of the 6 objectives, while doing no significant damage to any other objective and complying with minimum social safeguards and following the technical screening criteria. Next, we'll dive into how to do a positive contribution to climate change mitigation and what are the technical screening criteria for forest management activities. So there is a long list of criteria set to distinguish sustainable forest management that can be reported as aligned with the EU taxonomy, and I'll very briefly go over a few points and then dive deeper into the climate benefit analysis where we can apply scenario modeling. So briefly on the first points, the owner must have a forest management plan, which must already be sustainable. Permanence must be considered and audits carried out on regular intervals to ensure continued compliance. But however, we'll now focus on the climate benefit analysis that is more interesting for this presentation and is required to prove alignment with this regulation. So you must conduct a climate benefit analysis in which you define a business as usual forest management scenario to set a baseline and ensure additionality. So all activities must be proven to increase carbon storage compared to a baseline scenario. The baseline scenario is based on the previous forest management plan to show how forests would have been managed in the absence of the regulatory framework. Next, you define an alternative management path to be applied from now on that decreases the net balance of greenhouse gas emissions and removals over 30 years compared to this baseline scenario. While also the long-term average net greenhouse gas balance must be kept below the baseline in the new management plan. This setup naturally forms 2 scenarios to be analyzed with forest modeling tools. Additional criteria for the analysis are that it must be consistent with the IPCC guidelines for the national greenhouse gas inventories. The applied framework must be transparent, accurate, and apply the most conservative assumptions. and use localized parameters and models whenever possible. Accuracy of the modeling must be proportionate to the size of the area, and the risk of non-permanence, reversal, saturation, and leakage must be considered, while the analysis must cover all impacted carbon pools, which in case of forestry translate to above and below ground biomass, deadwood, litter, and soil. So as we see here, the criteria are very similar as mentioned in the previous presentations. So scenario analysis works as part of the climate benefit analysis required for claiming alignment with the EU taxonomy. Next, I'll show how a project like this is implemented and what information is needed and what is the end product. To begin with, we specify the scenario settings by defining the business as usual scenario, and then increase carbon sequestration in an alternative scenario. Some typical ways to increase carbon storage in forests include extending rotation lengths, altering the thinning criteria, favoring, for example, thinning from above instead of below, so removing larger trees instead of smaller trees, which typically also extends rotation lengths. Then applying continuous cover forestry in suitable areas like peatlands, and conserving parts of the forests to increase carbon stocks. As a starting point for the modeling, the client must either deliver forest inventory data, or the data can be produced by our inventory services, or open data can be applied when it's available. We then implement the necessary development work to model the scenarios, carry out the actual modeling, and conduct intermediate reporting to receive client feedback to do possible iterations to the scenarios in order for them to be viable for implementation in practice. In the third phase, we analyze the scenarios, compare the scenario results for reporting, draft the reports, and do still possible iteration rounds before the final reporting. The summary page of the final report can then look something like this. Let's dive into the figures in more detail on this slide. So in this case, we defined two forest management scenarios, BAU here translating to business as usual, so the baseline scenario, which was defined by client's actual management practices up until today. Then we defined an alternative scenario with the client to extend rotation lengths, apply continuous cover forestry, and increase forest growth by fertilization. The methodology applied was the same as in all our modeling, so we modeled biomass carbon storage in Finland based on models by the Natural Resource Institute of Finland, and soil carbon by a JASSO 15 model, that is a dynamic soil carbon or soil model developed by the Finnish Meteorological Institute, and applied our own wood product model to estimate the effect on wood product storage. Here in this figure, you see the aggregated forest carbon storage, which means biomass and soil put all together in megatons of carbon dioxide. With the darker green color, you see the alternative scenario, which will be followed from now on. And with the lighter brown color, you see the business as usual scenario development that would have happened otherwise. And the difference between these scenarios then translates to the additional carbon storage that is achieved by complying with this regulatory framework. And this was done, in this case, on a time span of 30 years, so up until 2052. Here we see some key figures. So we quantified the additional forest carbon that is stored between or by altering forest management from business as usual scenario to the alternative path. Altering forest management also imposes costs on the forest owner, at least by a decrease in the net present value of forest by following a suboptimal forest management path compared to pure revenue maximization. While we also quantified the decrease in carbon stored in wood products, because in this case, the harvest amounts decreased on the time span of 30 years, slightly affecting the flow of timber into the wood product storage. In the core of the analysis is, of course, the monetary value and the annual cash flow that is examined in the simulation and optimization, and also quantifying the annual harvests. So here we see the harvest levels in the darker green color in the alternative management scenario and with the lighter color in the business as usual scenario. So we see a significant difference in how much is harvested in the beginning of the time horizon of the examination. As the last thing, I want to show you an interesting example of another way to use our software to quantify the carbon stocks and sinks of the land use sector of an entire geographical area. So this is the third service area of carbon quantification. This is a project that we carried out in 2020 for the Finnish capital city area municipalities. So 4 municipalities altogether with this geographical area, with Helsinki city center being here in the middle. So the objective of this carbon quantification assignment was to study the carbon stocks and their current annual changes in the vegetation and in soils of the green areas of the capital region. And such projects are typically implemented to quantify the carbon sequestration potential of the entire land use sector to achieve carbon neutrality objectives of municipalities and provinces. There is a clear indication that more such projects are or municipalities have growing interest to carry out such projects to report climate neutrality on geographical levels. The aim of this study was to produce a location-based results, as shown here, of the carbon stocks and fluxes of the capital area, and one of the maps is illustrated here. And here with darker green areas, we see a higher carbon stock in tons of carbon dioxide per hectare. So for example, here is the capital Central Park area with a lot of forest in a relatively natural state. You see a higher carbon stock values over there. While here in a table, unfortunately in Finnish, but I will make the important points nevertheless. We show the carbon stocks and sinks in tons of carbon dioxide per hectare stored by vegetation of the area, so trees and other green areas, and also the soil per municipality. So these kinds of figures can be easily produced with the carbon quantification service. I will end my presentation here. I thank you for your attention, and I'm available for questions here online and in the chat, and also via email. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nico, for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, today we only have 2 speakers, as Ms. Katia from Arbonot has just COVID yesterday and she's not in a good shape to deliver a presentation. So we could now jump to the question and answer session directly. So anybody who have questions, you could raise your hand or talk directly here. We will open the questions, the first 3 questions first, and then we will follow up later on. So maybe anyone who would like to raise questions first? Okay, we have Pak Petrus here for the first questions. Okay, Pak Petrus, maybe you can open your microphone and ask questions either to Pak Pur, Mr. Nico, or Mr. Mati.
Okay, thank you very much. Is my voice there? Okay. Okay, I have two questions actually. One to Mati and then second to Nico. My question to Mati is, I'm a little bit puzzled with the idea of fertilization. Could you kindly elaborate why we do need to fertilize the forest? Is that to speed up the growth, or what is the reason for the application of fertilization? Secondly, I'm really interested in the role of forest professional as a partner. So how you organize the role of professional forester on the project itself? That is the second. And the last question to Mati is about the buyer of the carbon credit. Is that domestically available there in your country, or is it also open for the international market? And my question to Nico is about the long-term strategic planning you mentioned. Is it for how long? Is it 30 years or 100 years? Thank you very much.
Okay. Because Pak Petrus has a lot of questions, maybe Mati and Nico can answer first, and then I will go to the second and third person. Maybe Mati, there are 3 questions here. I hope that you listen all of them. I think the first is like why you need to fertilize the forest. Is it for speeding the growth? And then Pak Petrus also interested about the forest practitioner in the project. And then the third one is who is the buyer for the carbon credit in Finland? Is it domestically available or is it international market? Yeah, Mati, I give you the floor.
Okay, thank you. Can you please repeat the second question again one more time?
Pak Petrus, your questions for the second one is about forest practitioner, right?
Yes, the role of the professional forester in the project, and how you actually to organize the linkage between the project and the professional itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the first question was why the fertilization? Before we started our business, we studied different kind of methodologies. What has been the scientific world developed for carbon sequestration. There were a total of something like 14, 15 different methodologies like reforestation and extend the rotation time and so on. And why we chose the fertilization was that in Finland and also in Nordic countries, we have a very solid long-term scientific background for the fertilization and the effects of fertilization. And also the let's say the measuring the impact for fertilization is quite clear. So you can, when you cut the tree, you can clearly see how it is affected and what is the additional growth which we get through this fertilization project. So for us, it was more like so that there were the solid base was the best among compared to the other methodologies. And if I compare, for example, reforestation as another methodology, the problem with the reforestation is that when you plant the trees, small trees, it takes something like 15 to 20 years before it actually starts to mitigate the carbon. And the overall mitigation of one tree is something like 660 kilos through the overall period of the growth, which is in Finland case is something like 70 to 80 years. So basically, you have to be sure that these trees will grow the whole period of 80 years. And when we are doing the contract with the private forest owners, the contract period of 70 years or 80 years is something that they are not willing to sign. So, for example, these were the reasons behind why we chose the fertilization. It is a short time period. It is affecting immediately. Also, on a climate perspective, we get the results immediately, and it's easy to measure and show how it is worked. Then the second question about the forest professionals' role. We basically try to utilize all the other steps of the process to external professionals, unless let's say the paperwork which is required for the carbon sequestration projects. And there are maybe a few reasons why we do that. For example, in Finnish case, we have the forest covering nearly the whole area of Finland. So basically, if we have to do the field study in the beginning of the project, we should have experts overall the Finland to conclude that, and that usually requires traveling and so on. So we should have a higher number of experts and the whole Finland covered. So that's one of the reasons why we use external professionals which also already are located, for example, in the northern part of Finland and different areas of Finland, and they have also the connections. Usually, they have the connections through the local forest owners, for example, in terms of discussing about the contract and the requirements and aspects of the contract. So they have good local knowledge, and that's that. These are basically the reasons why we use these external professionals. And yeah, another thing is also, if we are talking about scaling up the business so that we don't have to hire a new expert for each individual role, we concentrate on our expertise, which is managing the project and developing different kind of methodologies and scaling up the business and try to outsource the, let's say, the practical point of these processes. And the third question was about the buyer of the credits. Currently, our customers are middle-size and middle-size Finnish companies. There are some larger companies also, like publicly traded companies, like a stock companies, but mainly they are middle-sized companies, and let's say the kind of a biggest sector is companies who are manufacturing products for the consumer markets. So they have created a climate roadmap for the climate actions, and the consumers are demanding to different kind of actions towards the companies, so that they should do the carbon accounting actions, and they should do the mitigation or offsetting their emissions as well. So I would say that the consumer products manufacturing companies are the biggest area. We have some 50 customers on that area who is buying the credits. But through the end of year there's a New Year Eve fireworks, usually in around the Finland, and
recording in progress.
To the major fireworks operators in Finland are our customers, and they are offsetting their business operations on a yearly basis just before the New Year Eve.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matti. Nico, I think Pak Petrus have a questions for you regarding the long-term strategic plan. Is it for 10 or 100 years?
Yes. So typically we model a time period of 100 years, and technically there is no reason why a longer period couldn't be examined. But of course we have to understand that uncertainty increases as time goes forward. So the most kind of certain part of the modeling is the upcoming, let's say, 5 to 10 years, and then uncertainty of course increases, and we have to make assumptions on how forests are managed in the longer time frame. And as Matti also mentioned, I believe the rotation lengths in Finland are quite long. So let's say around 70 years, 80 years, even longer. So that's why in the case of Finland, examining the whole 100 years typically is of interest, because the rotation lengths are also so long.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nico.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nico. So we go to the second person. I think Pak Andi Jebus, you can ask your question. Pak Andi, are you still there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
still here. Thank you very much for the opportunities. Yeah, I'm still very new in this case, and then I heard the carbon credit trading already open in Indonesia, and then I already heard from all of the narasumber, yeah, the resources, but they are from Finland mostly. So it's quite different between the Finland management forest and between Indonesian forest management. It's very different. Even though from long time ago, we have something like Jacopori, yeah, in how to we manage. That is our benchmark how to manage our forestry. But here I'm asking you regarding this business credit carbon for the forest. We have 15,000 hectares HTI. Maybe in English I said industrial plantation forest. Maybe, yeah. I don't know in Finland, but we call HTI in Indonesia. The HTI still have the period until 80 years later, and then we are currently using the log of the HTI as a to produce the veneer. Yeah, maybe everybody know veneer, yeah. But because of the veneer now already, the price is not good, and then we don't have anything from producing the veneer, and then we don't get money or something like that. And then I'm interesting when the carbon credit is starting trading in Indonesia, and then I'm asking about there is a portion of land owner that Mr. Nico, maybe I don't know which one is already told me about that. That we can stand as a landowner, and then landowner will be paid for the company that will manage the forest. So I'm interested with that. So what about if our 15,000 hectares HTI forest can be turned to be the carbon credit business? So we will stop the veneer production. Is it make sense, or maybe it can be applied? That's what I'm asking to the forum. Thank you. Halo,
Thank
Bu.
you, Pak Andi.
Yeah.
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 Maybe Nico, you can help to answer the questions.
Yes, certainly. Maybe I can start from the kind of modeling and scenario analysis point of view, and maybe someone can hopefully add on the Indonesian side of the carbon market, and how would you include or actually earn credits for that. But in my case, I think this sounds rather clear. You sort of have two scenarios. You have the veneer production scenario on the 15,000 hectares of forest land for the upcoming 80 years. And then this would be a case of improved forest management, or altered. I believe IMF improved forest management is the typically used term for this sort of project, that you have the intention of using the forest and logging it in a specific way, but then you earn carbon credits by altering forest management to manage it for increased carbon storage. And then for the additional part between this set baseline, which sounds like is the veneer production, and the alternative management path would then be the amount of credits minus some uncertainty deductions and buffer accounts. But this sounds like the case to me. I'm not sure on the Indonesian market, is it mainly planned on, in the case of forestry, for these avoided deforestation projects, for example, or is there also an instrument to include this improved forest management type of projects?
Pak Andi, does it answer your questions?
Yeah, but I need more specific regarding who I can talk to more details about this, because this is the potential for me, potential to do with this forest, the 15,000 hectares forest, because I see the production, veneer production is not economic anymore for us, and then maybe during this 10 years, we already produce about 2,000 hectares log from the forest. So 2,000 forests for logging. So maybe one of the method is like reforestation. I think is can be applied to this our forest. But for more details about how can we register this for the certification, and then how to calculate the existing carbon, something like that, and then what the other method for us to make it more optimal in manage this forest. Maybe I need more details for that. Can I who can I can call, or maybe meet, maybe yeah, discuss about this gitu, Bu.
I suggest we set up a meeting regarding this, because I'm an expert on, or we at AFRI Smart Forestry are experts in the forest modeling part, in which we can certainly assist you. And we've been carrying out this sort of analysis for forest plantations as well in tropical areas. And then I can include someone from our management consulting in more general, who has more information on voluntary carbon markets, such as the VCS mechanism, for example. So that might be a good way to approach it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can give my contact number to the forum. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I will get in touch with you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Nico.
But Pak Andi, as you hear from Pak Pur information earlier, you also need to consult with the Indonesian stakeholders. I would reckon that it will be APHI, because as we understand that the regulatory and the voluntary carbon market is very different. So I'm sure, yeah, you can get some insight from Nico, but also you need to consult with the Indonesian. Yeah. I think we can go to the third person. I think Mr. Martin Winoto, you can raise your question here now.
Okay, hi, my name is Martin from PT Kal. Thank you, APHI, for conducting this webinar. I think it's very insightful presentations from both Mati and Nico. We are a new entity that has a mandate to restore some peatland in Kalimantan, and basically I have two questions. The first one is to Mati, whether it is in your interest to have to help or to consult for a project that's outside Finland, like in Indonesia. And maybe the second question is maybe some advice on the critical first steps of a landowner like us, of a new landowner like us, in starting the restoration process of a peatland. Thank you.
Okay. Well, yeah, we can definitely start a discussion about consultation, and yeah, you can contact me directly, and then we can set up a meeting and discuss about the details. Of course, we don't have that kind of expertise about Indonesian forests or forest markets, so that kind of expertise is required. But of course, developing the methodology and that kind of things, there we can certainly help you. Then about the other part of the question, how to start or what to consider in the beginning. Well, on a forest owner's point of view, I would say that when in the very beginning there has to be a certain amount of area so that let's say the developing the methodologies and the overall process is going to anyway cost something. And if you only have like a small area of a forest, and usually some part of the area are not suitable for mitigation projects, so there has to be a considerable amount of area, or you can combine or join with other forest owners and develop the model from the beginning together. And developing the model there we can help, but yeah, like I said, there should be a local presence and local knowledge about the forest and the methodologies as well. And one thing which I want to also highlight is that since the money for the equation is coming from the companies and the users of the carbon credits, it is also important to have some kind of connections with the buying customers already in the beginning, so that we could probably ensure that there are already buyers in a door when these credits has been created.
Okay. Thank you very much, Matti. That was a very good information to me. Thank you.
Yeah, I will copy paste my details to the chat.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Miss Pera, you can raise your questions now.
Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you for Business Finland and AMHI for conducting this insightful session. My question is about how do you see the Indonesian regulation and its connection about your intention to collaborate with Indonesia stakeholders? Because Indonesia, we know that we have the SRMPP regulation where all the projects in forestry must be registered to Indonesia, and it has become targeted for NDC Indonesia. So how does Finland, especially the business partner from Finland, see this as whether it's a challenge or an opportunity? And how do you think that we can proceed to the next step of the collaboration between Finland and Indonesia in terms of carbon credit and forestry? Another point might be about, I know that Finland has the program for result-based payment previously, regarding one of the area in Indonesia. So do you guys do you have like kind of perspective or insight about that? If not, then maybe just answer the first question. Thank you so much.
Okay, Matti, maybe you want to answer Ibu Pera's questions, and then Nico, you can continue later on. I think this is about the collaboration between Finnish to the Indonesian market, because Indonesia have a lot of regulation, I would say. So how do you see your opportunity, or how will you explore the opportunity with Indonesian stakeholders?
Well, if I start, yeah, certainly the regulation is very important to consider, and yeah, of course we don't have that any kind of expertise of the legislation or regulations in your area, so we definitely will need some kind of a connections or partnerships for these kind of experts. But on the other hand, I would say that in Finland we also have a quite strict regulation framework, either national or coming from EU. So we are used to work with quite tight boundaries of these regulations. But yeah, I would say that we are certainly interested to start the discussion and have a look at is there a mutual interest that we could work together and see if our offerings is something which could be helpful for your thoughts. But yeah, like I said before, that we certainly need a kind of a group of different kind of experts or people from your end as well. so that we can together then probably start to create these projects, and also defining the process on a longer term, that how we could implement kind of a permanent model for Indonesian carbon sequestration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matti. Nico, maybe you want to add something?
More of nodding and agreeing with what Matti said, and maybe adding on the forest modeling point of view, is that our modeling tools can apply basically any forest models. So as long as we have localized forest models, for example, modeling plantations is fairly straightforward, but modeling natural forests is much more complex due to the heterogeneity of the forests. But technically, there is nothing kind of stopping us from modeling Indonesian forests as well, and we've been modeling plantations quite a lot already. So we have quite good readiness level in that sense. And coming to the regulatory frameworks, as I touched upon the EU regulation regarding these topics, you must always take into account the national regulation. And in that sense, I definitely agree with Matti that we should collaborate with someone from your side to kind of grasp what is the regulation and how it must be taken into account in our modeling. And AFRI as a consultancy company, we also have presence in Indonesia. We have an office in Jakarta, so we have local presence in that sense. Although I work from Finland and I'm concentrated in forest modeling, we have quite good readiness as AFRI as a company to respond to these kind of challenges on a global level and in different countries.
Thank you, Nico. Just quick information that we are also like one of the carbon credit project developers in Indonesia. So definitely we'll keep in touch with Nico and Matti to see what kind of collaboration that we're gonna do, because majority our forests are mangrove and tropical. But thank you.
Great. I hope we get in touch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So I don't see any further questions from the participant, and it's nearly 3 p.m. already, so it's been 2 hours. So I would once again thank you for the APHI for assisting us to conduct this webinar, and thank you for all the speakers who has delivered their presentation to share about the expertise, the knowledge and experience to us. And thank you all for the participation in today's webinar. I hope this presentation give you a valuable information and knowledge, and you could learn from the practices in Finland. And hope to see you in the next webinar. And please fill in the attendance list so I can invite you for the next webinar. So thank you so much for all participation.
Thank you, Bulia. Thank you, Mr. Nico, Pak Matti, and all participants. See you. Yeah, healthy. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Pur.
Yeah, thank you, Bulia. It's good facilitator. Yeah. I'll see you for next webinar, Bu.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Pak. See you, Pak.
Yeah.
Thank you on my behalf as well.
Thank you, Matti.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nico.
Terima kasih, Bu. See you, Nico. I'm waiting for your call or your email. And Ibu and Miss Pera tuh. Terima kasih semuanya.
Ya, terima kasih, Pak.
you.
Ya.
Terima kasih Bu Priscilla.